Welcome to our next Paranormal Round Table, our April edition, with plenty of guests joining us today. First up, how are you doing, Greg?
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. The weather's getting better. I've got a viewing on my house this weekend, so hopefully, fingers crossed.
Cool.
How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm awesome. Awesome. Looking forward to talking to all our guests. You just heard Mike Earl from Mike. He's
Hello.
back for this panel round table. How are you doing, Mike?
Grudgingly, they've invited me back and my strong opinions on everything. Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Ash.
Awesome. Also joining us again is Michaela Ford from a couple of episodes ago. You joined us from the Paranormal or What podcast. Welcome, Michaela. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me back.
Pleasure.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. And a newbie joining us this month. Not sure where you actually come from, so maybe introduce yourself a little bit as well. But that is Jody. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So, what's your? Well, so I asked Jody to come on. Jody runs a page, one of many pages on Facebook, Paranormal Talk United, and I've been going backwards and forwards for months with Jody, and we've just been chatting about coming on and her paranormal experiences, and I'm an admin on the page, so yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks, that's brilliant. No, the page is there for for everyone to come together and talk about all things. It just doesn't have to be paranormal, experiences, UFOs, everything and anything really. It's not just the UK, everywhere, widespread, so all over. So
yes, everybody come and join us.
Yeah, come and join us.
It's got some authority as well. Greg recommends it because he's been banned from half the paranormal pages on Facebook.
Well, funnily enough, that's how we first started talking, because Jody was posting all these things up, and it come up and it said, like the content can't be shared with you, it's not visible. And it turns out it's Ghosts of Britain, and they've banned me from all their pages. And I was saying to Jody, how can I view this stuff? I'll keep liking it. I liked each one that she's been putting up, and I've never been able to see them.
Yeah. They haven't had much luck in with that in the last, so hopefully, I'm hoping it will sort itself out for you, Greg.
It won't. They hate me. They hate me. If I go on if I go on via the podcast page, I can see the videos. So they haven't got rid of it. And I follow them on TikTok as well. So yeah, follow them on TikTok. So
what did you do to them, Greg?
So it all So it started off during the beginning of lockdown, and they were going out loads during the start of lockdown when everybody was just like grassing up their neighbors. Everybody was looking out the window, and if you saw somebody down the road from you that had been out for like 5 minutes longer than they should have been, everybody was grassing everybody up, and it was all over like Facebook pages and that, saying, I can't believe these people are out. And anyway, they were out. And it really annoyed me one day. And I'd followed their stuff before. Don't get me wrong. I'd liked their stuff before. And they banned me from then. Basically, it's been about 3 years. And I don't know. I've tried all their like fan pages saying, can you just unban me, unblock me? And they're like, we've got no control over it.
Well, hopefully they hear this so they'll unban you, Greg.
I doubt it. If they listen to any of our other episodes, they probably will keep me banned. But I have been trying to view their content. I am interested in all the ways that different groups do it. We speak to all people across the paranormal community, good and bad, and about all sorts of things. So it would be good to speak to them, but I'm just on a hit.
They're an interesting one as well, because they're out literally every night, right? Like almost every night there's a live video from them. So it's like they're doing a lot of investigations.
Yeah.
So you'd like to think that they've got a lot of exposure to it, and their methods are pretty solid. I don't know. I've really watched them very So
Yeah, some of their stuff's good.
Yeah.
It is good, and I've watched it, and it was just some comments I made right at the start of lockdown, and that's not that I'm one to
Yeah.
hold grudges, but
Yeah.
anyway.
It's all you talk about.
I'm hoping it'll sort itself out for you, Greg. I'm sure if you ask Lee and Lindsay, I'm sure they will help
Yeah.
you, because I've spoken to them myself in the past, and hopefully if they hear me now, or I can send them a message.
Yeah, please do. So, because
They're
I
out
have
every
never.
night, so they're interesting to watch. I do find them
Mm.
really interesting.
Yeah.
It's live as well every night at 9. So their investigations, well, I enjoy it because it's just live. You don't get that often, do you, live?
No. And I think it was just around the whole lockdown thing, and it was all that sort of mindset that everybody had back then about trying to stay in and saving the world and that, which obviously didn't quite go like that in the end. But so yeah, that's my Ghost of Britain's thing, and that's how initially I got started talking to Jody was to see
You
how I
did.
could view this stuff, and it's gone from there. So thank you for joining us today.
Well, it worked out.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about a few things today, and the first bit I wanted to cover off and to talk about is commonalities in paranormal locations. So this is one that Mike raised as part of what he wanted to talk about. So over to you, Mike. What are your thoughts on? Is there any common threads and anything that's common across all these different paranormal locations that you've been to?
Yes. And
Thanks
stop
for
me if
that.
you think I'm totally wrong. Obviously, yeah. See you later. See you next week. Stop me if any of you haven't found this, but things like some form of like water source, whether that's underground flowing water or a well, the amount it's become sort of like an in-joke between me and myself and my partner Patsy. Whenever we go on an investigation and we're talking to whoever knows the history of the place, and they go, "Oh yeah, there's a well underneath it, or there's a water source," and we'll sort of roll our eyes and go, "Fucking, of course there is," because it's one of those things that comes up again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost as if, is there an actual link between some form of like flowing water or underground reservoir or well? You think about East Drive's apparently got one.
Mm-hmm.
The ancient Ram, they rerouted a river around the ancient Ram. Minster Level Ruins is right next to a river.
Yeah,
there's a local pub to us that we went to, and there's a deed to a well underneath the pub. And from speaking to the landlady, she was like, "But I don't understand, because there's no well under there now." I went and investigated a hotel down in Portland, which is a little island off the coast of Weymouth. Down south.
Yeah.
And that what is now the hotel used to be an underwater weapons facility. And apparently underneath the hotel is tunnels going out into the sea. So again, like another connection to water or flowing water and stuff. Is there some other people that have been investigating, is something that you found as well, or any other commonalities that are between alleged haunted locations that seem to come up again and again? Like,
yeah, I mean, I've been to a few places where water's definitely there. I've been to places where there's a well. I've used dowsing rods at a particular well in the foundry of an old mill outside Whitney area, so close to me. And like you say, Minster Lovel's got the river. But incidentally, just on a slight tangent, me and Ash done an episode on ranches, UFO and hotspot ranches, and they've all got rivers close to them on water sources. So maybe it is something to do with that. Skinwalker Ranch got it, Stardust Ranch got it. Loads of them we looked at have got water sources near them. So yeah,
part of my brain wants to link it to the fact that human beings are 60-70% water, and maybe when we, inverted commas, return to the earth, we can get somehow trapped. I don't know, maybe it's got something to do with that. I've not thought about it deep enough, unfortunately. Michaela, is that something you found as
it is
I know you've been investigating?
I mean, if if it isn't, it's probably because I don't know of the water source nearby. But I was just thinking actually about my the town I live in, Chichester. I've recently started. It's an old town, and most of the houses are Georgian. There was it's a Roman town, but there was a big fire that basically decimated the town, and then the Georgians rebuilt it. So most of the houses are Georgian in the town centre. And I already know of 4 buildings in the town centre that are haunted, possibly 5. And what I've started doing is going into pubs and the older buildings and basically just asking them, have you ever had anything happening? And at the moment, it's really on a roll, and I'm going in building after building after building, a restaurant, a pub, a tattoo studio, an old newspaper office, all claiming to be haunted. And I'm just wondering whether there is water underneath the city. You know, I know a lot of cities have water underground rivers, don't they? Like London has loads of underground rivers and things. So I suppose it's not that a bigger stretch to think that everywhere would be near some water. But I love your idea about the fact humans are so much water, and it just made me think of something I was talking to with the children in my class, which was it's quite mind-boggling to think that basically every drop of water in the entire world has been through millions and millions and millions of animals' bodies. You know, we've drunk for thousands of years, and everything's been part of something else. So maybe each time, I don't know how big a bit of water, but each time it goes through some process, maybe it does pick up some sort of energy.
I definitely agree with you there, with being, you know, with the water going through people, millions, thousands of billions of people. Think how much energy is in that water, you know. Think how much, like, you know, going through us, it's touching thing, you know, it's not just us that have energy, you know, it's items, and that's where I think it comes from too. It's just, you know, like you said, it's been through people, animals. Very interesting. Lots of energy there, definitely.
It's also apparently alien. Like, water didn't originate on this planet; it came from space, which is an even more bizarre concept to think of. What Michaela was saying about when you've been into pubs locally, and Ash and Greg, you guys will attest to this from your pub crawl, and every pub in the UK is apparently the most haunted. Pubs are hotspots for alleged hauntings, right? And the only reason I can think is because of like Jody was saying about energy, the amount of footfall and the amount of energy that's historically gone through these places, that it's like potentially just this build-up of something that creates a haunted place, something that maybe it's like residual energy where there's been so much going through it for so long.
And you just think that, sorry, Michaela.
No, go on.
I was going to say, because you think, like you said, that we've drunk all this water and it's been through all these people. There's only X amount of water on the planet, so it evaporates, goes to clouds, and it is just on this continual cycle. So why isn't it a storage method for some kind of residual energy, or and it continually loops. So it's definitely plausible. And you think a lot of places around by water, there's loads of haunted places that we've spoken about before, and they've all been near water. So there was an abbey that was burnt down, and that was right next to, I can't remember which river it was. But there's a lot of spiritual places are by water. So Tintern Abbey, just down by Chepstow and just across the border into Wales, that's right on the River Wye. I've been there many times, and there's a haunted like churchyard as such across the road from it as well. So I would imagine that there's probably a lot of spiritual places by water for whatever reason. So it doesn't seem
just reminded me of this. sorry to interrupt. You just reminded me as well, when I investigated a pub called the Riverside, which gets its name because it's right next to a river. All through the night when we were calling out and it was, are you male or female, we weren't really getting any answers until I can't remember who it was on the team had a stroke of genius of saying, like, are you connected to the river? Are you a spirit of the river? And that's when things started seeming like it was answering as well. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. Is it like, I mean, is it some sort of elemental water spirit or something? You know what I mean? Or thinks it's that more than identifies more as a past man or woman or person sort of thing. And that was really interesting.
Yeah, that would be interesting actually. And I know we're going to sort of mention My Haunted Hotel later, but I hadn't quite appreciated or thought about the fact that actually the pub is only a few feet from the river that goes through Chester, which I'm just quickly looking at now because I can't remember its name. Is it?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Well done. And it's really, really very, very close to it. It's probably about 100 yards away.
Yeah. Well, if you think about one of my favourite haunted places up north, York, with the River Ouse running through the middle of it, and that place is allegedly the most haunted city in Europe.
Yeah.
It's just
Oxford's that as well, isn't it? All of them. As I say,
it's well, you've got a canal as well, to be fair, mate. So or a river, haven't you? But
yeah, we got all
it's one of these weird things that got all the water. It's one of these weird things that just keeps coming up again and again, right? That I've noticed anyway, as I say, to the point that whenever we go somewhere and they go, oh, there's a well or something, we kind of roll our eyes and go, yeah, of course there is. Because why wouldn't there be?
Exactly.
This kind of off topic a little bit. Well, kind of, we mentioned water spirits, and like so many cultures have tales and legends of water spirits, like Celtic, Germanic, ancient Greek, like mermaids, sirens, water nymphs, all these different sort of folklore around creatures in the water. So I mean, like you say, water makes up most of us, most of the earth. Is that where energy is? Is that where ghosts come from? Is that where all energy goes back to? And that's why we get these creatures or ghosts that we see in the water. It seems quite like all these different sort of cultures from all over the world have these sea ghosts as well. Just pretty interesting.
Yeah. I think that's definitely so. Sorry, you carry on, Michaela. I've spoken enough, mate.
It was just something that I popped up on the internet feed today, and you probably all know about this. I think it was NASA. Mars rover found this big possible fish spine. I think what's the Mars rover called? Is it Creator?
A Curiosity, isn't it?
Curiosity, that's it, yeah. And it found this massive thing that they think, obviously, on the internet it was saying, is it an alien? But scientists were saying it sort of looks like a massive spine of a fish with kind of ribs coming up.
Yeah, I've seen that picture. I've got a picture of it here.
Maybe we stole all the water from Mars.
Maybe. They reckon Mars was completely waterified.
Was covered in water or whatever.
Yeah, let me show you.
There's a mad theory as well about the whole, perhaps the meteor that killed the dinosaurs was the last escape pod off of Mars, and like Mars was the previous country that we fucked.
Nice. Can you see that? Can you see that on the screen?
Yeah,
that's it.
Strange dragon bone looking Mars rocks. So yeah, it does look quite.
It does look scaly. Yeah.
Yeah, very spiny there as well.
It's got the spine there, yeah.
So I don't know if it's I did see that in a week, and
I'm totally with you with the water though, and the energy is definitely. I think when you're in a place and there's a haunt, and I think if there's a river nearby, I think it definitely brings more energy to the area.
Why do we think that is though? Why do you think that might be? Well, it just seems strange that all these places have got river by them. And I know Ash was just talking about all these spirits and like legends and folklore. Just like, so for example, like you've got water, earth, wind, and fire. And we've spoken a couple of times to this guy in South Africa, and he records weird stuff round by fires. So I don't know if it's to do with one of those 4 elements. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what everybody else thinks about that, but
Quite possibly. I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff in sort of, I guess, more paganistic religions that's about the raw elements of the earth, right?
Yep.
And nature worship, and those 4 things are natural, for want of better. So yeah, maybe there's something in it. Like,
so what other things have you found that have got a commonality with others? Then, Mike, is there anything else? So
what
trauma.
That's just the agenda I'm pushing.
Okay, it's all about the water and nothing else.
Yeah.
So we when me and Ash speak about a lot of the haunted stuff that we've like researched in America and around the pubs, that trauma is a massive thing. There's always hospitals, anything that's previously been a hospital, something that's previously been potentially a pub, or a local area where a lot of people used to congregate. That seems to be, I don't know whether it's just because there's lots of people have been in those places, but trauma definitely seems like a massive sort of vessel for storing energy, which it might be because it's run by the water, and the water is a bit like a battery maybe, but definitely trauma. You could go to somewhere, and if there's a lot of paranormal activity, if you were to look back at some of the history, I could imagine that there is probably some kind of past trauma, deaths, murders, those kind of things. And I get that that's where you'd probably see a ghost of some highwayman or something, but it does appear that trauma seems to create a lot of paranormal activity. And I don't know whether that's just because the spirits have not been able to pass over, or they get sort of trapped, or there's some kind of unfinished business because their life was potentially cut short through no fault of their own, kind of.
Well, tying into that, me and Patsy are firm believers. Well, I say firm believers. Me and Patsy are very against, when on an investigation, using the question of, do you know you're dead, or how did you die? Because theoretically, we're like, what if they don't know they're dead? And that's why they're still on this plane of existence, as it were. Because we've all heard the stories about when it's your time to pass over, someone loved one visiting you, why it like takes you over to the other side. What if that never happens because you were never conscious enough that you'd been murdered very quickly, or that you can't reconcile that you are no longer alive, and that's why you don't believe you're dead, which could come into the trauma thing. But again, that's just a personal thing. That's just a question that we particularly like asking, of going, how do you know you're dead? Because on top of that, you imagine if you didn't know you were dead, and you'd be like, fucking hell, am I? What are you on about? I'm just wondering why all these people are in my house.
Yeah. Why they all ignoring me?
Yeah, like the others.
I haven't seen that. So don't spoil it.
It's all right. My issue with what you were saying about trauma and history is there's a lot of history that isn't necessarily verifiable.
Mm-hmm.
And a prime example of this is the Black Monk of Pontefract. There's no actual evidence to suggest that entity is actually real at all. In fact, maybe to the contrary, because the idea is this monk was hung and then chucked in a well. And why would you potentially poison the town's only water supply by chucking a dead body in it? So stuff like that, I'm a bit like, it's hard to try and actually verify history or folklore on a lot of places. But who knows?
True.
Trauma certainly seems like a thing. I'm also not sure if the trauma thing leads into like the whole stone tape theory idea of somehow the earth records something and then plays it back in future again and again and again, or if maybe it the way I like to think of it is something happens and there's so much raw emotion, it scars the earth, and it then becomes a residual haunting. As I say, it's something that's just on a loop, playing back again and again, rather than something intelligent that's stuck around.
What
Yeah,
do you think?
also that when traumatic things happen or highly emotional things happen, there's a massive release of energy. You know, if you think about splitting the atom, it's like, you know, it just flies out, and maybe it does actually not even just stay in the earth, but maybe it's, you know, it kind of affects the very air around, the particles of air. The particles of energy are kind of imprinted with this energy of emotion, and then it does play back. Because I definitely believe that there are different sorts of hauntings or ghosts, if you will, and in my experience, the most common ones have been residual, so sort of things that don't know that you're there and they just happen, and you can be there one day and all sorts of things happen, and you can be there another day and nothing happens at all, because it's just not the right circumstances for it to play back. Well, we went on an investigation on Saturday to a place that we've been 2 or 3 times before, and it's been quite spooky before, and literally nothing happened all night. It was lovely, it was peaceful, and it was really dull. But yeah, I do think it's the release of energy that kind of affects what's going on.
So on that note, have you ever been anywhere where it's been so flat that you know it's supposed, so like somewhere like 30 East Drive or somewhere really flat, and you've gone, you know what, I'm just going to finish early? I don't know. Have you ever had that, Jody, where you've been somewhere that's supposed to be super, super haunted and nothing's happened?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places you go into, you know, and like I say, you can't, you can, you know, as much as you try to ask spirit to come or connect with you, you know, if there's no energy around, or, you know, and you're not going to get anything that day, then I just, you know, you pack up and you think, well, there's no energy here, so maybe they don't want to connect, and, you know, it's time to go. So yeah,
Does that
I've been
happen
to
a
a few
lot?
places like that. Yeah. You know, you can't expect to have massive things happen, you know, as soon as you go into a place, you know, oh, this known place has been haunted for such and such a long time, this and that happens, and then you go there and you're like, you know, there's no energy there that day, you're not going to connect. So yeah, it can happen, you know, and I think that's normal. What do you think, Greg?
Well, wow. So yeah, no, I agree. It's I've been loads of places and it's just like flat, or it'll be really active to begin with, and then all of a sudden it just seems to, for want of a better phrase, die down.
Yeah, I think the energy seems to die. Yeah.
I've been to the Ancient Ram Inn, and when I first got there, the one of the people in the group that I was with, so there's a small group of us went there from the paranormal group I belong to in Oxfordshire, and somebody saw a book or something moving in the top window, and we're the only ones in there. And straight away I was absolutely petrified that night. And I normally I'm all right most places, although Mike will probably disagree with that because I've been like a wet cabbage every time I've been out with Mike. But yeah, it was really active to begin with, and then right at the end it was completely flat. And then like me and Ash, we've investigated in the basement of his house a couple of times, and like we'd be in one room doing a Ouija board and nothing really happened apart from the batteries going dead. And then in another room, we were filming, and then we could hear stuff like a noise outside the room and all manner of weird stuff all on the same night. And it's just really weird that things, and that is a freaky place, I must say. But yeah, it is like that. I've been been loads. I've been Minster Level. Me and Mike have been to Minster Level, and I've been there a couple of times because Minster Level Ruins is just down the road from both of us. And it's nice and open and public, so you can sort of pretty much go down there whenever you like. And I've been down there before, and I've caught things on camera, and then next time nothing really happened. And I've taken my work colleagues down there. I took the whole team from work, so we wanted to go out, and one of them, his son's name came from the spirit box, and it was like a really odd name, and it was just like, how the hell's that come through?
Wow.
But it is one of those places, like everywhere, like you just mentioned. Some places it can just be really flat all the time, and nothing really taking place. And then other times people go, and that's I think almost the beauty of the paranormal and doing investigations is that you can go somewhere and people are going, it's the most amazing place, it's the most haunted pub in England or whatever it might be. And but then you'll go, so I went to 30 East Drive and really not a lot happened there, but other people going, it's the most amazing place. And I think
it can suck the energy out of places, though, like when it can be overdone, like people can go there every single day. I think that can suck the energy out of a location.
That is very true. I do think some of these, which is my only fear with my haunted hotel in Chester, is because all the time. And don't get me wrong, we love Danny Moss. We love Danny Moss on this show. We've spoken to Danny a load of times about all sorts of things, both on and off air. And that's my only fear with that place, is that so many people will go all the time. How have you found it there, Michaela? Because have you been a couple of times now?
Yeah. It's absolutely as haunted as anything. I've been twice and I've not been disappointed. I've never been in a place where so many things happen in such a short amount of time. I've never been on any investigations anywhere, and the whole time I've been doing it, where so many things have happened. In fact, when I first went, I was thinking, this can't be happening. There must be a man sat behind that partition with a drum or something. I mean, the bangs that were coming from the wall and the doors and the floor, and it was almost, you sort of became used to it. Whereas you might go into another location, and if there's something really loud banged right next to you, you'd be freaked out for the whole night. But it does get to the point there where you're going, it's knocking on the door again. And it's incredible. I mean, if I lived near there, I would be there every week. And it's probably a good job I live so far away, because I want to join them. And I find it really hard, because I've spoken to Danny quite a lot of times and done articles about him for the magazine and stuff. And I'm really sort of having to hold myself back from trying to push myself forward and go, can I join? Because it's just so exciting. It's really exciting. I can't even begin to tell you. All I could say to people is, it looks like it's too good to be true. It isn't. Go yourself. That's all I can say.
No, I keep talking about going there, and Mike's like, when are we going to go up there? And me and Ash go, when are we going to go up there? So I even said to Danny, I was like, we will be up at some point. And so hopefully
let me know when you're going, and I'll tag along too.
We'll all go.
Yeah. Road trip. Just an excuse to go, and then I use it as an excuse to visit my parents, because they're up in Halifax, so I can justify going on a big round trip.
Pitch it to Danny as doing a live Pursuit of the Paranormal Round Table or podcast there,
mate. I've tried, and he's like,
yeah, come on. Chance.
It's like, come on up, and I'm like, okay, how can we sort it out? He goes, book it through the website, mate. I was like, okay, cheers.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things, but you just do it and then agree it, don't you? You just go, by the way, we booked for this time. Can we use your brothel table for a podcast?
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah, could do. We could try that. So that brings us on nicely while we're in the haunted hotel to another thing that's happened over the last week or so, which is Danny Moss has released a clip of one of the episodes that shows the doll, the Grace doll that we've spoken to Danny about multiple times, moving in the glass cabinet, which is mad that it happens, because you've seen it, haven't you, Michaela? Have you seen it sort of live, as it were, in the flesh?
Yeah,
in the pad.
Yeah.
And it's got like a chain over it or something like that.
Yeah, it's on a pedestal in a glass box with an iron chain and a padlock around it, although whether that's just for effect, I don't know. And then it's also got bells laid over the top, so that supposedly if the box moves, then the bells will ring.
So we'll come on to your doll in the background in a minute, Jody, because that is fascinating. We've spoken to many people about haunted objects, and haunted objects is like we've talked about with water and such like. So first of all, what does everybody think about the footage? What's your initial thoughts, Jody? What do you think when you've seen the clip?
I have a fascination with dolls and things like that being, maybe they have a haunting or some type of connection with spirit world or whatever it may be. I just think like we were talking about earlier with the water and the energy. I think whatever we do during the daytime, whether it'll be a cup or you touch the side or whether you're cooking, I think everything has an imprint of energy. So I think I'll bring my doll now.
Yes.
So here's Victoria.
Hello, Victoria.
And I named her Victoria. Because I just felt like her name was Victoria. I connected with Victoria. She came from a friend's grandmother, and I believe the friends of the grandmother, she passed away. So, but she didn't want to keep this doll in the house for whatever reason. So then it was passed down, and I said I'd have this doll, but I just feel there's something with this doll. So, I've just kept it with me, and I've got these balls here. I've done a little bit of the cat ball and the K2 meter, and it does seem to go off around her. And as we were speaking now, she was going off behind me. I don't know whether you could see her or not, but she has been going on and off, and there's nothing new. I'm like a sweep of the room, and as you do with the K2 meter, just to double check everything. But seems to be something around the doll. So yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on dolls at all, or do you believe in
mixed? So we've interviewed a lot of people with dolls, and there's one guy who I won't mention his name, but he has been on Good Morning Britain and things like that, with his most haunted doll in the world or whatever it is. But he's modified it and he's put like LED lights and all manner of weird stuff in it. And he records live and stuff on his in his haunted room. Yeah.
And he wondered why it caught fire. Sorry.
Yeah, because it's full of bloody electrical equipment. But yeah, so he has stuff happen on camera, which he uses to publicize the fact that he's got this haunted doll.
Yeah.
Which is why I wanted us to discuss the My Haunted Hotel one, because we've spoken to Danny Moss a load of time about the doll, and it isn't something people have got. It's very divisive for people that can something. Why is it just dolls that seem to be haunted? And I'm in two minds. I've seen like the Danny Moss clip, that one in the box. It moves. How it moves, I don't know, but to me, it moved.
It moves upwards as well. It's like not like it sort of downwards a little bit. It sort of Sits
That's
up a little
interesting.
bit.
Because
And arm moves up, which is weird.
yeah, I've seen some.
Yeah.
I've seen like an Annabelle type doll, and it just falls over, and people going, "Oh, it's this haunted doll." And I was like, "But it could just have fallen over." But I'm open to anything. We've been doing this podcast long enough to know that anything can seem to happen, and no story or account or experience that people have can be any less valid than anybody else's. So with your doll, Jody, do you get a sense of it being like a good presence, a bad presence, or what?
This is definitely a good presence. There's no bad with this doll. I've had no bad feelings with her since she's come to the house. But I just got that feeling that something has come with the doll. It's not a bad presence, but there is a presence, if that makes sense.
Do you experience anything else alongside, like, say, the K2 meter going off? Do you experience any other weird stuff around the doll? Like, I don't know, do you see like orbs is a bit of a contentious thing in the paranormal world as well, but that kind of thing. Do you have any other kind of phenomena that happens around the doll, or is it just the bits that you've talked about?
Well, as I with the chat before, and I was telling you a bit about my background with me being, brought up with my mum being a medium, and I don't think I've known any different. I just sense a lot of things, around me, and I do connect with spirit, and I can connect with spirit. And when as soon as this doll came into the home, I just felt there was a presence around the doll, and I think it's a young girl, which is why I picked up the name Victoria with her. So that just Victoria, I did ask her as well. I did ask her if she liked the name Victoria, and she did. But whether you believe or not, it's another thing. But I do believe there is a little girl around this doll.
Okay. Do you?
Yeah, it's not a bad spirit.
No. Do you ask questions of the doll to like get responses from the K2s?
Yeah, definitely. You can say, for example, is it a boy or a girl? Are you a young girl? How
I was going to say the lights were just going off there, but you got it in your hand, don't you?
That was me. Jesus. I'll put the balls on her actually.
Okay.
From them going off, see if she goes off there now. But yeah, you can ask a question if you want, Greg.
You put me on the spot. I'm not usually lost for words. Yeah, I'm not usually lost for words. Okay. So Victoria, I don't even know what you got. I don't know, Mike. Somebody else.
Does it have to be a yes or no? I don't believe in haunted dolls.
No.
By the way, for clarity, I've not experienced one, so therefore,
everyone's got their own opinion.
I'm like Danny Moss was, as he says, before he encountered the Grace doll and didn't believe in any of it. And I think I'm still waiting for my Grace moment where I see one and go, fucking hell. So I'm not sold on them, especially, and this isn't anything against you, Jody, but like when you see them on eBay and people are selling them for £10, and it's like, surely if it's haunted, you wouldn't be selling it for £10.
Yeah, exactly. There's too much of that going on as well.
There's
completely agree with you.
There's a lot of fakery. So yeah, I don't know. Would it have to be a yes or no question?
You can ask a question to see if the ball goes off. Just anything along the lines of maybe flash or the K2 meter going off.
Yeah, because the asshole part of me thinks of asking what the root, or what pi to 6 places is, to be fair.
It's not ChatGPT.
Well, there we go.
Oh my God. Oh, the ball's going off.
Yeah, there you go. 3.14635 or whatever it is.
Wow, she knows it. Michaela knows it.
Go on in, Mike. You can normally talk forever. So, Victoria.
Keep talking. I'll think of a measured question.
So, Victoria, are you aware of the fact that we are in different rooms to you, and can you interact with and our energies through this medium that we're using? if that's a very good question to ask, but so we've done like the Estes method and Spirit Box method with Ash being in Manchester and me being in Oxfordshire. So it'd be interesting to see if you could do like a remote question. Go on in, Mike.
Victoria, do you exist in our dimension, or are you manipulating the doll from another dimension? That's like a
no, it's a good question.
So light up the ball if you are manipulating the doll from another dimension or a spiritual dimension.
This is where it doesn't work quite so well with audio.
Yeah, for clarity, for clarity for the listeners. For clarity for the listeners, the ball has not lit up.
Victoria's silent.
It's a good question to ask, though. That's a good question you could ask at any paranormal investigation, actually, Mike.
Yeah.
So Jody alluded to it, and you guys kind of know this as well. I think that I have some sort of mediumistic spiritual ability, but I really struggle with whether it is me tapping into spirits from another dimension or me tapping into other people's brains. Ball's gone off.
Spirits from another dimension.
Spirits of another dimension, and it came on.
Yeah.
Ask going again.
There you go.
Yeah.
But I really struggle trying to figure out if I'm just tapping into other people's consciousness who are on this planet and then knowing their memories, thoughts, whatever, you know what I mean? So I don't know.
So Victoria seems to think it's from another spiritual dimension. So, but that
she's definitely interesting.
It's a fascinating. It's definitely fascinating. Yeah,
worth investigating for sure. Like everything's valid, right, in terms of investigating, because we don't know what we're doing.
And I know that's something that you're keen on, Mike, is the fact that nobody really knows what they're doing. They were just trying different things out and seeing what works. And
no, and as snarky as I get about certain methods, they're all as valid as each other.
Yeah. So what kind of question? So that was a really good question. It's not even a question I thought of before, Mike. So well, brownie points for you. What other kind of questions could we ask Victoria on this? I know we didn't really sort of plan for a live investigation with a doll, but it's cool. It's cool. Yeah, definitely.
Victoria, are you able to understand what we are saying to you? Can you light those balls up for us?
I'll chop out quiet bits.
I was just going to say, is this more suited to a Facebook Live where we could get Jody?
We could. And yes, Jody, if you're
investigate the doll that way.
If you're up for that, Jody, we could do that.
This is pretty hard, isn't it? Doing it this way.
But yeah, we could do it on a Facebook Live, or even just a video version.
I'll bust out the Alice box and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
That would be good.
So if you had any coming soon, So has anybody else seen the video footage of the doll, My Haunted Hotel? What do you think, Mike?
As I say, I've not had any experience with haunted dolls, and anyone's footage that isn't my own, I kind of find hard to believe because I'm not there to debunk everything.
Yeah.
My brain immediately went to the fact that it could have been some form of vibration, despite the fact that there's no one in the room. But I don't know, like, it's compelling, and I kind of believe Danny Moss wouldn't go out of his way to lie or anything, as much as I struggle to reconcile some of the stuff he captures, because my experience doesn't reflect that. I'm like, but how?
I think the issue that Danny's got is that he's got so many haters on the internet that even if any one bit of his stuff was manipulated or faked or whatever and it came out, that would be the end of him. And I don't think he's that kind of person. I mean, we've spoke to him for multiple hours, and I mean, you get a sense of somebody pretty quickly when you're talking to somebody, especially when we're talking face to face with people like we are now.
Yeah, if you were going to fake things, I would imagine you wouldn't have such strong opinions about certain elements of the paranormal because it immediately paints a target on your back from people who believe in orbs and such, right?
Yeah.
I watched we're talking about my haunted hotel. I watched the mediumship special.
Oh, don't
Like-
spoil it. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, come on, this was going to be good content.
I haven't seen it
Michaela,
either.
come on.
You have to
Oh,
save
God.
that for the next one. You have to save that for
Yes,
the
you
next
have to pay for it via the subscription service, to be fair.
Yeah.
one. Okay.
But it said mediums, and my ears pricked up, and I went, "Ooh, I wonder," because Danny's like massively skeptical of them. So I was like, I want to see his take on it. There's some interesting things in there,
Mhm.
but from my own experience, I think maybe he scrutinizes them a bit too much.
Okay.
Where he's like, yeah. If you've not seen it, I won't spoil it, but
I can imagine what happens. The thing is, there are certain opinions that Danny has got that I thoroughly disagree with, and we have had words about a couple of things. But I completely respect him as an investigator. We don't have to agree, you know.
no, not at all.
And it's hard as well sometimes as an older person not to go, well, you know, come back in 30 years time when you know, with that opinion, when you know, it's really hard not to be patronizing of people who are much younger sometimes, because you sort of think, yeah, I used to think that as well, but now I think this because I'm old and crusty and I've had loads more experience. But the thing is, with mediums, I completely understand that he might be skeptical of them, and I completely understand that there are a lot of fakers out there. I also believe there are some people who are genuinely talented, and I don't think that by having, I don't know how many he had on, 3, 4, or 5 mediums, you can then make 4 mediums. You can't make a judgment on the entire world of mediums based on that. You can only make a judgment on what those people did on that day. You can't even judge those people on another day. And I think that's where the experiment could fall down, in my opinion.
There's a point where him and Danny and Brett are talking about how they're looking out for if a medium says, when they're talking about something mediumistically, if they come out and say 100% this is this, and they're like, oh, the minute a medium says 100%, we know we don't believe they're believable or credible because they've used 100%, and how can you ever be 100%? And I was thinking, like, but I say 100% a lot because that's just part of my vocabulary and the way I speak. So I don't think because of someone's linguistics that should mean that you immediately rule them out of being legitimate, right? And it was just one of those weird things that I was like, that's to me, that was a short-sighted way of looking at things, just because of you're looking for a certain phrase. Do you know what I mean? And as I said in the mediumship article on pursuitoftheparanormal.com, go and read it.
.co.uk actually, but there we go.
.co.uk. When I've done readings for people, you want to steer clear of like the commonalities of, oh, there's a short grey-haired lady here, which everyone can fucking connect to because everyone knows a fucking tall grey-haired lady. But invariably, that's going to come through at some point. And how do you then not say that if that's exactly how someone is? So although it's one of those like stereotypical commonality things, sometimes it's true, and you kind of just have to go with it. It's very tough.
Yeah, that's like when we did a public ghost hunt last year in Manchester, and we did that like S's method tagging in a circle, like a vigil. And I was near like sort of the end of the circle. So I was like one of the last people to have the headphones on Spirit Box. And what came through on the headphones was stop the experiment. But I didn't say it because I was thinking that sounds too like good. Like if I say this, it's gonna sound like I'm just making it up. Like, but it came through, stop the experiment. So I thought, I'm not even gonna say it because it sounds fake. It sounds like I'm just saying it. And so I didn't say it. And afterwards I told like the guy was like, this came through, but I didn't want to say it because it sounds like I'm just making it up. You know, that is what came through. It would have been a good thing to happen, but I was like, it sounds too fake, too good to be true.
there was a point at the investigation that me and Greg did on New Year's Eve where I was doing my woo-woo shit and trying to basically psychically come up with things. And the first name that came to me was Derek. And Derek's a name that comes up a lot for me. So immediately I discounted it, went, no, it's not that, and moved on to another one, which I can't remember what the next one was, Greg. And then later on, the Alice box says Derek. And I'm like, well, I know, because I second guessed myself, I now look like a massive liar when I, actually, that's the first name that came to me, but I didn't say it. But it's genuinely what happened. And
we did make sure that when you were getting any kind of feeling about stuff, we were saying you need to tell us before the Alice box says it, otherwise you'll be saying, well, that's what I was thinking, and you kind of discount, or you wouldn't be able to use it properly because you go, well, that's what I was thinking about. So
as I've said multiple times, I'm really conscious of influencing an investigation by things that pop into my head and might just be my subconscious. You know what I mean? I don't want it to be a whole Derek Acora scenario where I turn up and say a bunch of bullshit that's popped into my head, and then the entire investigation is based around that, which could be completely wrong, right? That's what I'm super conscious of.
Speaking of Derek's.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question, Mike? I've got a burning question to ask. What I want to know is, because I didn't realise that you had mediumistic abilities, which I'm very interested in hearing about, is what came first for you, the interest in the paranormal, or was it the mediumistic abilities that made you or forced you to become interested in the paranormal?
How long have you got?
Maybe we could do a whole other show about it.
5 minutes.
Is it actually 5 minutes?
No.
Okay. A very, very short bridge version. I didn't believe in this stuff until I was about 34 years old, so 2 years ago-ish. I thought it was out of bollocks. I thought, like, it's all just psychological ploys, it's bullshit. Like, it's just, everything could be explained by science. My fiance booked us to go on a ghost hunt, and we went, and there were some things that I couldn't immediately explain. And seemingly our group got more than the other groups that evening. And some of it, and this sounds super big-headed, but a lot of it revolved around me in particular. And then we went on another investigation with the same people, and they sort of took the piss and went, oh yeah, it's Mike the Ghost Whisperer. Because of that, I went, well, maybe there's something in this. Started exploring it more, and then, like, just fell into it and worked out I could do certain things. And then looking back on my childhood and looking at things like, apparently night terrors are very common for people who have some sort of psychic ability, and I used to suffer really badly with night terrors. And there was a lot of stuff looking back that lined up, and I was like, ooh, bloody hell. But yeah, so the initial interest in the paranormal, when I guess a K2 responded to our questions intelligently, and I was like, well, I can't explain this just as being a random EMF cloud passing by or something. And then from there, looking more into why activity seemingly happened more around our group and me in particular. And that led me down the path of getting dragged into doing a reading for someone very early on, and being right on a lot of things, and being sat there going, I don't know how the hell I just did that, but apparently I just did. And knowing things that there's no way I should know, like about her grandmother that I've never seen, never met. Specific things about wearing a pinny and baking. She's been baking, but it's not a cake, it's a pie, but it's not a big pie. It's like a small collection of pies. And then she goes, yeah, like an old family recipe was they make a shepherd pie, but it would be in a mug. And it's all manner of weird stuff like that. And since that point, I've done readings for various people, including Ash. And I mean, Ash can potentially attest or not attest as to how good it was. And yeah, it's just gone from there. And I think it's got stronger and stronger to the point that I can go on investigations, walk in a room, and immediately be like, I don't know about this room. This makes me feel funny in some way. Or pick up on things that teams who have previously investigated have also picked up on previously.
I don't.
Yeah,
How about
so
you,
with
Jody? Oh, go on. Oh,
so I was going to say with what Mike was saying, and Mike did the reading
Yeah.
for me. He got basically the description of a close family member, like pretty much spot on, that passed away only a few years ago, and the name that she used to call me when I was a kid, and it's just like I was just like, wow, like I've not been called that name for like 20 years, and just come out with this name. So yeah, I can attest to. I was impressed with that reading.
And if I may, there was also a period about one of your family members trying to sort of say, you need to play hard at school, you need to do this, that, and the other, you need to be on the straight and narrow. And this other family member who's come through basically being like, let him be a free spirit, let him explore his youth and explore things and go off. And it was sort of like a loggerheads with these two family members as to which way Ash had essentially been taught.
Yeah, it was spot on. And it was that family member that would call me that name, and the description was spot on. It was really, really good. So yeah, book in with Mike.
Yeah.
It's free.
Yay.
cool.
I'm just sorry. No, sorry.
No,
I was just
you
gonna
carry
say
on. No,
something quite-
no, yeah, you carry on.
I was going to say something quite random, which is many years ago, I went to see a medium who was my mum's friend, and it was my mum's friend. She didn't do readings for many people. She didn't do it as a way of earning money or anything. She just had this really incredible gift, and I went along to see her, and it was one of the most incredible hours of my entire life. It was just absolutely blew me away. And all she did was we sat across a small table from each other, and she held my hands and closed her eyes. And it was like somebody had plugged us in. The electricity going between me and her, it was like waves. It was kind of going do, 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 do. And she told me sorts of things, all of which were true. But the one thing she said to me, which has really played on my mind quite a lot, is she just very sort of calmly said to me, you have the same abilities as me, and when you're older, you'll be able to do this too. And I've thought about that so many times, that lots of weird things have happened to me, but I feel like, I don't know, is there going to be a light bulb moment where I go, oh, maybe she was right? Because at the moment I think, I'm not sure she was right about that. But it's there are so many things that have happened to me. When you write, I actually write them all down, and when you look at them all, you go, oh my goodness, that's amazing. But I wouldn't say that I could kind of do a reading for anybody or anything like that. So I'm just interested, but in what you've got to say, Mike, and also Jody. How do you know if and when it's kind of the right time, or it's happening to you? Does something happen? Or
Much like anything in life, you do it, and if you shit at it, you don't do it again. You just jump in at the deep end and see what happens. As I say, I started to have things happen and started to be able to, I don't like using the term, but guess things that I shouldn't know. Message my friend and being like, some weird shit started to happen, and the next thing I know, his wife's messaging me going, James says you're a medium, can you give me a reading? And that was like that point where I go, I'm not, but yeah, fuck it, I'll give it a go. And kind of never looked back, basically. just do it and see what happens.
How about you,
and
Jody?
if you yeah
actually something really, really strange happened to me one night at a friend's sleepover, and this just confirmed it all for me, what I was seeing and hearing. And when you get a feeling that something's watching you, and you're like, oh, I got that odd feeling, and I just pulled my blankets like this, as you do, as you get that feeling, up, and as I looked, this massive ball of light, and I mean, it was like a golden, the only way I can explain, like a golden massive orb. You couldn't see through the orb. And the odd thing was, it was going like in the corner of the room, in in a square shape. Like the way it was moving was it sounds really odd, I know, right? But I was so amazed. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. It's like traveling in a square shape.
Like sort of
And
like
I
that.
froze. Yeah. A massive ball, like a basketball size ball. Couldn't see through the ball. And it was like traveling in a square shape. And I just froze because I didn't know what to do. Because I was scared, but I wanted to watch it at the same time. But then next thing I did, Alec, next thing I did then was throw the blanket all back over my head. And I just froze then, but that just confirmed everything to me. I've been hearing things since I was small, like choirs and things like that. My mum, like she's a medium, and like when she was growing up as a kid, she would see things and she would tell my gran, "Oh, there's a lady on top of the stairs and she's wearing such and such," and she would explain exactly what her friend would look like, and she would like, "Oh, she's because my mum was young, she's a bit scared as well. Oh no, you're not, you're all right. You're not seeing, that's not what you're seeing," type of thing. But she knew exactly what my mother was seeing. And another time was my mum's nan had a massive hill at the back of the garden, and my mum used to love going up the hill, and she would run up the hill, and then she would like see people waving like out of the top window from the grand's house, and my mum would be there waving. But like I've been brought up with hearing things and seeing things, but that night that was just the topping for me to explain. Like I can't explain it now, but that was massive to me, and I've never forgotten that. Never forgotten what I've seen that day.
Yeah, sometimes
it was amazing.
I just wonder if
I didn't have time to like sink in what I really was seeing. It was amazing.
Yeah, I saw something like that when I was about 19, but I was stoned at the time. So I always put it. But this is what happens with me. I just put it down to either, had a few glasses of wine, or I just saw something out of the corner of my eye, or I'm mad, or I'm tired, and I just kind of make an excuse for everything, because I just think it happens too quick. So last week on my podcast, in fact, I sent the story into Monsters Among Us. I don't know if you've listened to that podcast, my favourite podcast in the world. Besides all of yours, of course.
I was going to say.
My favourite American podcast, should I say. So initially, when I saw the orb, like you did, it was a big yellow basketball orb. And as I was walking up the stairs to the toilet, I followed it up the stairs, and it went up the stairs. And then as I got to the top of the stairs, it whizzed around the corner and went. But as I say, I was at college and highly intoxicated in several substances.
I wasn't intoxicated at the time. No, it was amazing.
So that I saw a full-bodied apparition last week, but it was only for 1 second, and I was driving along in my car and minding my own business, and to the left-hand side is a footpath with a green space beyond it, and there was a woman walking towards my car on the footpath as I was driving past. Nothing unusual. She was a larger lady, mid-40s, long blonde curled hair. It's amazing how much detail you can take in a very short time. She had a red top, jeans on, and a long white coat. And I saw her take a couple of steps down the path. And kind of when you're driving along, you sort of notice things. I wasn't going, "Ooh, there's a lady walking down the path." She was just there. But the thing that made me look was that she disappeared. And I looked to the side really sharply. And then I thought maybe it was an illusion that she disappeared, because I went past her. She disappeared, and then I drove past where she was. So I looked in my wing mirror and then in my rear view mirror, and there was no one there at all. And I just think, is that my brain projecting an image onto the path? Or have I just seen a ghost?
Actually, something similar happened to me as well when I was driving, and it was getting dark. It was late, and I was coming towards a bridge, and this black shadow, just like, I don't know if someone's walking, just came across, like walked right across me in front of me on the road. There was no one around. There was no one there, and it was as if as quick as it came, it was gone. You know, it just gone. Black shadow.
Yeah, it's happened to me a lot, but at night.
Yeah.
This is the only time it's ever happened in broad daylight. It was sunny. It's happened loads and loads of times at night when I'm driving home and things.
This was just before
I see people on the pavement, and then I look and they're not there, and I just think, oh, I'm tired, you know, I'm seeing things out the corner of my eye, and I've always just brushed it off. But that was so, you know, bizarre. In colour, in the sun. No doubt it was there, but I don't know whether it was paranormal or whether it was just my brain having a glitch.
Well, that's a spooky story for us to end tonight on. So sweet dreams, everybody. But yeah, I think we'll wrap up this month's Paranormal Round Table. Thank you, everyone, for coming along. We didn't even cover half the subjects we're going to talk about, but I guess next month we got a agenda for next month already. So thanks, Mike, Jody, Michaela, and Greg, as always. Thank you all, and we'll speak soon.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Thank you. It's been brilliant.
Thank you.